Hi, Gemini. Analisa Six here from the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you your October 2023 horoscope. This is for sun and rising placement. So with horoscopes, it's important that you watch your sun placement and your rising placement because they're both relevant to you. I am not into my hair right now. I looked really good yesterday. I did my hair and I was going to record these videos and I didn't. And so I didn't wash my hair again. I don't know. My hair's not important. Although you do have to look at me while I talk about this. So I apologize that I'm not more. I'm Ken enough, okay? Or Kenneth. So what am I saying? I don't know. Let's get into your horoscope. Okay, Gemini, let's talk about it. We're in Libra season. Libra season is a positive time of year for Geminis because Libra and Gemini make harmonious aspects to each other. Air signs like air signs. So I don't know what your relationship is to fall or autumn, but hopefully you're enjoying the crisp air wherever you are. Obviously I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, so it's autumn, it's fall where we are. There's a lot going on in October. October is not going to be a smooth month. It's definitely turbulent. We've got a lot of ups and downs for sure. I wish that we were a little bit more smooth sailing after this summer with all of the Venus, Mercury retrograde nonsense, but no, we're still having kind of some continuation of the story. So we've got quite a bit of energy in Libra. The area of the chart that it's hitting for Gemini is the area that has to do with creativity and self-expression. And so the positive, having the sun here, it brings vitality to that. So if you've been feeling an urge to be more creative, to be more vocal, vocal is not really the right word, but more like expressive, if that makes sense, like sharing yourself or sharing things, that's elevated here. We have Mars here, which Mars here definitely amplifies and adds kind of this layer of energy that brings us into a space where we have the ability to really channel some of that creative energy more intentionally. So we can kind of set this intention around, here's what I want to do, here's what I want to, how I want to express it, and here's how I want to push it forward. With that said, Mars is actually considered to be in detriment in Libra. And so sometimes, even though we have a clear intention maybe in our minds or how we want something to go, there's still a little bit of turbulence and things that can go awry anytime Mars is involved, but especially when Mars is in an area of the chart where it's not totally comfortable. Like we can come off a little bit more reactive or aggressive, or, you know, in Libra, Mars tends to be known to be passive aggressive here. So we might want to be creative and express ourselves creatively while also battling a little bit of that as well, if that makes sense. Mars is going to be here until the 12th of October, and then Mars is going to enter Scorpio. And the area of the horoscope that this impacts for Gemini is the area that has to do with how you're of service in the work that you do in the world, your daily routine, and also your health. Mars passing through this area, you're a lot more accident prone and prone to hurting yourself. And so that's something that you need to be really mindful of while Mars is moving through this area of the chart. Like, don't play with sharp objects. That's what I have to suggest here. Let's see, what else was I going to say about that? Yeah, just be mindful, you know, be mindful of your surroundings and how you're moving your way through the world in that sense. Try to slow down, I guess. Slow your roll is kind of what I would say there. Mercury is finishing up its stint in Virgo at the beginning of October. And then as of today, October 5th, Mercury actually moves into Libra. And so Mercury is going to be joining that area of the chart that we started out talking about, which was the area that has to do with self-expression and creativity. And that's where it starts to get a little bit maybe more vocal, where you're ready to kind of say, here I am, here's what I'm doing, here's how I want to share this with you, or with, you know, people, because this could also be something where you feel this way with a romantic partner, but it can also be something where you feel like you want to express yourself more openly or outwardly with more than one person, multiple people. This area of the chart doesn't necessarily rule people, but it does rule creative expression. And so oftentimes we feel kind of a need for validation from other people, or kind of like people saying, I see you, I see what you're doing. And, you know, we want praise. We want praise and validation and admiration. And so that's something that you might be feeling while Mercury is passing through this area. Venus is starting out, we're starting the month out with Venus direct in the later degrees of Leo. We've had Venus in Leo since June. Venus, if you've watched the horoscopes in the past, you know that Venus has been impacting the area of the chart that for you that has to do with communication, in the area that Gemini traditionally rules. And so communication and relationships has been the main theme for Gemini since June, and having to really work through, communication dynamics when it comes to romantic partners or friendships. And so that's been a huge theme for Gemini. And then Venus is kind of wrapping that story up at the beginning of October. And then by October 10th is going to be moving into Virgo and entering the area that has to do with home and family for Gemini. So, you might be, Venus here, there's kind of a need to beautify or make your living surroundings more harmonious. Also, relationships to family members come up. So there might be something coming up where you feel a need to connect with family. And that can be chosen family. I think that from a traditional astrology point, we'd probably look at actual family members. But I think that the people that we live with too, like roommates, people that we cohabitate with, that can also be chosen family that can come up during this time. Also, spending money on the home and, making improvements can also be a theme while Venus is passing through Virgo. And that's going to be for the whole month of October that Venus is in this area after the 10th. Mercury is going to join the Scorpio party with Mars on the 22nd. And this is a little bit, Mercury in Libra wants harmony, fairness, balance, wants to kind of enjoy things and bring things together in a harmonious way. And Mercury in Scorpio is a little different. Mercury in Scorpio is a little bit more about advocating for the self, or, Mercury in Scorpio is also said to be the investigator, the sleuth, kind of there's an intuitive psychic quality too to Mercury in Scorpio. So it's easy with Mercury in Scorpio to kind of like, I'm talking to Gemini here. I know that Geminis tend to be a little bit overthinky and can spiral out easily about something. And Mercury in Scorpio might kind of amplify that a little bit if you're intuiting that there's something fishy about a situation. You're probably right, and you're probably going to overthink it and spin out about it. And it's really important that you find a way to ground yourself during that time. We enter Scorpio season on the 23rd. So shortly after Mercury enters Scorpio, we are going to be in Scorpio season with Mars, Mercury, and the sun there. And, we're going to kind of have this area of the chart that has to do with your health and your well-being, and then also how you're of service amplified. Some of the shadow qualities of Mercury in Scorpio is that we have a tendency to be more emotionally driven. And so we can be more reactive. We can be more confrontational, and sometimes that's a positive thing. Sometimes we need to advocate for ourselves and be more confrontational. Mercury in Scorpio, oftentimes it can be really hurtful. And so if you're going to say something reactive and hurtful, I really hope the person on the receiving end actually deserves it, because you could definitely burn some bridges and have things not really work out for you. So this is a very check yourself before you wreck yourself kind of transit for all of us, not just you, Gemini. But, the area that it's hitting for you does have a lot to do with your well-being and also your daily routine. So self-sabotage when it comes to setting yourself up for success, you're more prone to in Scorpio season. So let's figure out a way to kind of preemptively ask, if I were to ask the Gemini on the receiving end of this, what are some things that you do that are not healthy for yourself? And what are some reactive behaviors that you're prone to? And if you know that there's a period of the month where you're going to be more prone to doing those things, what can you do now to kind of get in front of it, to lessen it or make it easier? Sometimes that means having a therapist on board, so that if you start to find yourself leaning into certain tendencies, you can just call up that person and say, hey, I need to talk. Or a friend even, sometimes friends can be really grounding for us when we're starting to spiral out. So if you're like, hey, I'm about to do X, Y, and Z, and I know it's not good for me, talk me down, talk me out of it. That might actually be really positive for you, especially if it's related to your health. So, these all get shared on thesobercurator.com, as well as my personal website, Lady of Leisure. And so I'm sober, and I tend to try to work sobriety into my horoscopes, which I don't always. Some of them are just kind of more neutral. But, there's a lot of energy this month that is it could lean towards people having relapses in their sobriety or leaning more into escapism through substances. And I think that because of the area that this is hitting for the Gemini, you might be more prone to wanting kind of these altered states or to escape mundane responsibilities and to justify it through things maybe going on in life that are difficult or challenging. But sometimes I think that there's like a cognitive dissonance between the consequences that we're experiencing based off of our past actions. So I think Scorpio kind of lends itself to this story sometimes, where if we feel victimized, which Scorpio energy tends to be on the victimization tends to fall in the Scorpio archetype. Are we truly a victim, or are we experiencing a consequence of a previous action that we could have avoided if we had been wiser or made a different choice? And so sometimes we are a victim and we need to lick those wounds. We need to nurture them. We need to figure out a way to come out of the ashes and heal and move forward. And sometimes we're repeating a pattern or a cycle that we actually aren't a victim of. We're a victim of ourselves, maybe. like I continue to make this terrible decision, and so I'm repeating the consequences of the pattern. I'm not learning from it. I'm not changing my behavior. And yet here I am still feeling victimized by my own pattern of behavior. So there's kind of an opportunity to like pull that veil off and ask yourself, like, is this a pattern of behavior that I have control over to change in my life? And I think that it's kind of like when we're eating something over and over and over again, it keeps giving us a stomach ache. And then we have to feel the pain of the stomach ache because we keep eating the thing that's hurting us. But it's like at any point we could just stop eating that thing and eat something else. It's kind of like, that's a really dumbed down, simplified version of that. That's like, well, duh. But we do that in other ways in our life where we're just kind of avoidant. Like we're not necessarily paying attention to that. So I think that's something to ask yourself with the Scorpio energy this month, where can I take responsibility for my role in what's happening in my life? So, and there's layers to that. I think sometimes it's harder to see those patterns than other times, but I think that's going to be a theme that comes up for Gemini over the month of October, especially at the end of October, when we were like full blown into Scorpio season. Okay, so let's talk about the moons that we have for October. So we're going to have a new moon solar eclipse at 21 degrees Libra on October 14th. And so again, this is hitting the area of the chart that has to do with your creative expression, your self-expression, your relationship to romance, and how you are feeling in yourself about the things that really, like, what drives you, what makes you passionate, what brings you joy, those kinds of things. So you might be asking yourself that. You might be asking yourself, like, what brings me joy? What makes me feel good? What makes me feel passionate? And how can I work more of that into my life? They say with solar eclipses, it's not a positive time to set intentions or try to manifest. I don't agree with that. I think that you can do whatever you want. So just follow your gut. If you feel like this is a time where you need to set intentions around moving more creative energy into your life and finding ways to spark more passion or joy into your projects, I think that's a positive way to lean into this energy. On October 28th, at the end of the month, we're going to have a full moon lunar eclipse at 5 degrees Taurus. And the area that that's hitting for the Gemini horoscope is the area that has to do with your subconscious. So again, we talked about how in Scorpio season, the theme around maybe unconscious patterns and the way that we feel victimized by them, or the patterns that we repeat, the past cycles, that's a big theme for Gemini for October. And again, like I said, at the end of the month. So this full moon is really going to bring some of that stuff up, where you might start to see a pattern, or an unconscious pattern might be made conscious. And you might go, whoa, I didn't realize that I was playing into this part of my life in this way. And now that I know, or now that this is being made more aware for me, what can I do to fix it? What can I do to change it? And so you might be kind of in a place where you're ready to make some of those decisions, or maybe you're not ready to make the decisions, but you're at least more cognizant of what's happening. And now you want to figure out how you kind of, change the script or lean into something else. So those are some big themes. I don't get into the outer planets in the horoscopes or the main transits. I do that in the astrology forecast that is at the beginning of the playlist. So if you want a bigger synopsis on October, please go to the beginning of this October horoscope playlist and watch the October astrology forecast for 2023, where I really go a lot more in depth with some of these transits. All right, Gemini, I wish you luck. If you appreciate this video, you can hit like and subscribe to get notified on when I post them every month. You can find me at theladyofleosure.com or thesobercurator.com, and I will see you all next month. Happy October.